daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Daily Manchester United. Happy Tuesday. Have you recovered from Saturday? I think we have just about. If you've noticed, I have a lovely microphone again, so none of that backup laptop business. And I'm glad to say I've got Tom alongside me on this episode. Tom, welcome along. Have you recovered from Saturday at all?
I have, yes. And whilst it was a much needed result, I still felt there was more left on the table that we needed to serve. And I don't think we quite served enough in that game. But let's hope we can turn on ourselves and carry on that momentum and try and get back-to-back Premier League wins, something which we've not had for a very, very long time. And certainly since Ruben Amorim has come in.
Yeah, there was a stat that was released by the Premier League that I kind of misread in all the chaos that was going on my episode on Saturday, was that was the first time under Ruben Amorim that we'd won back-to-back Premier League games at Old Trafford, which just seemed bizarre, in all honesty. I mean, yeah, it was pretty mental, that game. All of it happened in the first half, and according to the Premier League, they had to look back in this. No Premier League game in the modern Premier League era history has had 2 goals and 2 red cards in the first half of a game. So we're making history no matter what we're doing, Tom.
Yeah, it's a very hard one to believe that, but yes, it is the case. But, you know, it's Man United against Chelsea. You're going to see tackles going in left, right and centre. And it's not without the absolute relentless amount of rain that poured onto the pitch. And I think Chelsea fans were praying that the deluge would have been staying for a little bit longer so that the game got abandoned, just like it was further down the road over at Ewood Park when Blackburn were 1-0 up against Ipswich. And when the pitch became so waterlogged to the point where a ball just couldn't roll along the surface, the game had to be called off. And that's what the Chelsea fans would have been praying at Old Trafford.
Yeah, because they haven't had a happy hunting ground, especially in the Premier League at Old Trafford. Still winless at Old Trafford since 2013, which is bizarre, considering how United have not exactly fallen by the wayside, but the success that Chelsea has had in those years, you would have expected at least for them to pick up a win in the Premier League at Old Trafford. But hey, they're one of the only teams that haven't done in the 2020s, which just is so bizarre. But anyway, let's focus on the game as well, because we'll focus as well on some of the big decisions, the goals as well, and the overall performance, Tom. I mean, if there's ever a red card for a goalkeeper outside of the box, taking down the last man, I can't argue that was a red card in the slightest.
Yeah. And do you know something? I was watching parts of an FA Cup tie between Newcastle and Chelsea back in February 2005. It was the 5th round of the FA Cup. Chelsea were the runaway Premier League leaders at the time. They lost 1-0 and went out of the FA Cup, and they had Carlo Cudicini sent off for a last man outside the box. That was like towards the end of the game, though, not in the early minutes of that one. But it kind of reminded me of that, except that the nature of the challenge was different from Robert Sanchez compared to what Carlo Cudicini had done. But yeah, it was a bizarre moment for Chelsea. And from the moment Sanchez got sent off, United were going to have the momentum. And Chelsea, remarkably, in the second half, were able to find a rhythm. It was just unfortunate for them that they couldn't get enough out of it. They did have also a goal disallowed for offside, and rightly so. But I think United need to really take their chances, because I was saying in the WhatsApp group, which I think Tulu would agree with, we had so many chances and we hadn't put them away. We should have been 4 up in the first half if we took our chances like we needed to. If we're able to correct our decision making with the passing, when you had Sesko and Bruno and Ahmed there. Ahmed was waiting on the edge of the 18-yard box when Bruno should have played it back to Ahmed instead of playing like a 1-2 with Sesko. That really annoyed me. And that's something that Ruben Amorim has to acknowledge and say to the players, look, we need to establish these pockets of spaces. And whenever we've got a player free that's on goal side of the defender, you've got to pick them out.
Yeah. Although I will say actually as well, Sesko in that red card, wonderful header from him, rising high, and Mbermo is reading that perfectly. He knows at that point Sesko's winning the header. It's such, on the same wavelength at that point to run in behind, and gets taken out. It's a red card. And then the two goals come. So we've got 14th minute, Fernandes able to get on the end of a header. I'd say it's close. It is quite close to being offside, but it's only his arm. As we all know, he can't score with the arm, so the goal stands. I mean, it's a good finish from close range and the ball travelling at that speed. And Captain Fernandes does it again.
He does. 100 goals in 200 games for Manchester United for Bruno Fernandes. And it raises an argument, and someone raised this quite nicely, actually. If Bruno was playing for a better side and was scoring goals for fun to the figures of which he has been doing for the last 6 years nearly, would he be in the running for the Ballon d'Or?
Ooh.
But because it's Manchester United and where they are, fans feel that Bruno doesn't deserve to be thrown into that conversation. But I think, in my opinion, he does deserve to be thrown in that conversation.
See, that's interesting because we had this conversation before that I think the closest player we've got to being world class is Bruno Fernandes. But something in the back of my mind is just telling me he's not. He's just shy of being that. He's a fantastic player and he's able to change the game on a whim. He really is. I mean, as you said, a goal every 2 games in his United career is really something amazing for an attacking midfielder. But there's something telling me that there's just that little something that just stops him from being absolutely world class. And I think the City game kind of proved that to me, is that he can go quiet and some of his passing can be really subdued if it's dealt with properly, if he's marked properly. He can be really taken out of any game, but not in the Chelsea game. He was brilliant in that one. And when the second goal came around, Casemiro getting himself on the score sheet as well from Luke Shaw, absolutely barreling in to win their header. Love to see that. Allows Casemiro to get his head on it and make it 2-0. And then, goes in for a challenge that he's already on a yellow. Now, debatable whether it is a yellow, that second challenge or that challenge he makes. But why would you be doing that when you're on a yellow? Surely you'd be sort of thinking, actually, I don't need it. We're 2-0 up. We've got the man advantage. Probably don't need to make this challenge.
Yeah, I don't know why he needed to go for it the way he did, Casemiro, considering that we're close to half-time. We've got the man advantage. I reckon that Amorim would have made that substitution at half-time, really, just to preserve Casemiro. But now Casemiro is suspended for the game against Brentford at the weekend. I believe it's just a 1-match suspension because it was 2 yellows and not a straight red, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was really annoying because we were in a hell of a amount of stride against Chelsea in that first half. I mean, irrespective of whether we've gone down to 10 men or not, something told me that Chelsea would have come out as a different team in the second half, just purely because of the nature of how a half-time team talk can inspire a team going into the second half of these games. But if you're Manchester United and you're having a period of a match where a gaggle of chances are coming your way, you've just simply got to take them. And we still haven't done that. And I still don't even feel like we're ready for this season yet. Something tells me it. I mean, I know a lot of fans will be thinking, well, what on earth are you talking about, Tom? Well, I'm still not convinced by the way we are playing. I know Amorim's system is still taking some time, but he hasn't got a lot of time. These next 2 games against Brentford and Sunderland could define the future of Ruben Amorim. Because the first 2 games we've got back after the next international break, away at Liverpool and at home to Brighton. 2 teams that are not particularly fond by Manchester United at all. Certainly not Brighton, because that's 6 league games in 7 that they've won against us. And Liverpool, well, for obvious reasons, it's Liverpool. So we've got to go to Brentford and get a win against Sunderland as well, and think that we've got a great chance of making a surge up the table before we play those 2 games of Liverpool and Brighton.
Yeah, we're talking about crunch time already for Amorim. That's how this season's going. But we'll talk more about that and, of course, of the second half when we come back after this.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionique, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionique provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionique. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now. Your body.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
So second half gets underway, 10 versus 10. And from that point onwards, it kind of felt like Chelsea were in control, weirdly enough. Reece James, down that right-hand side, was, putting in some wicked crosses. And we kept getting away with it. De Ligt in the middle, though, was able to clear some of them away. He was great. Mazraoui on the right-hand side, he was putting in some decent crosses as well. But I felt like for both sides, there were clear opportunities for both of them to take a stranglehold in the game. And it just felt like neither of them could, especially in the second half. United were in total control in the first. But as soon as they, levelled up the playing field, if you like, 10 versus 10, kind of felt like Chelsea were going to get back into this game.
It did. And I have to say, Reece James did a really, really good job in how he handled the cross, which Chalobah got a header onto. I can't remember who actually took the corner, which their goal was disallowed for offside. But I was amazed, considering the conditions on the pitch, that Chelsea were able to swing those crosses in, because they were difficult for United to clear. So Chelsea still had some form of threat in there. I know a lot of their fans will feel that Chelsea are on a downward spiral at the moment. With the draw against Brentford the weekend before, the defeat to Bayern Munich, of which Harry Kane got 2 of those, much to the dismay of the Chelsea fans, just to add insult to injury. And of course, the defeat to Manchester United, a team that Chelsea fans will feel, well, this is a bang average Manchester United, a team that belongs in the bottom 6 or bottom 7 of the Premier League table. Chelsea have really got to pick themselves up, and they've got to ask themselves, what exactly are we going for this season? This is the side that won the FIFA Club World Cup in the summer. This is the side that won the Conference League last season, of a competition which they were expected to win it, considering the competition that was there last season. What is Chelsea's goal for this season? They've got to ask themselves that. And it's the same applies to Manchester United. I think there was a meeting, or so fans are trying to make out to be, or some reports are trying to make out to be, that Ruben Amorim had a private meeting with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe made the objective clear for this season for him, that European football qualification is the absolute minimum. If we don't get it this season, I can't think that Ruben Amorim is the man to be sticking around. Because if he cannot cope with this Manchester United team in only reaching the top half of the Premier League table when they've got no European football at all, how is he going to fare when they're playing in Europe with the squad that's there, plus 3 or 4 more players that are coming in?
It will be a question that's sort of on the bubble. I mean, would Conference League football be enough at that point? Is that the European competition qualification, or do we need to be going into the Europa League to be, for the board to be satisfied?
I wouldn't mind the Conference League, and I know some people think I'm being bonkers here, but the Conference League is pretty much United level, because the Europa League, there's a lot of brilliant opposition in that competition. And I mean, there are a lot of brilliant teams in there, whoever they are. But United, it just feels like still a stretch too far. And when you've got the Premier League alongside the Conference League, it sets United out a little bit better, and it takes some of the discomfort and some of the distraction away from them. Because we know that the teams we are potentially going up against in the Conference League, if we do qualify for it, are not going to be like Manchester United's level. It'll be a competition that United would be expected to win. And it kind of gives that confidence boost going into each of the games. And it gives a chance to some of the youngsters as well, just as much as what we saw from Chelsea last season against teams like Noah, of which they won 8-0 against in the league phase. I wouldn't mind a season like that if that is what it means, and Amorim's there and we're still progressing in the Premier League table. Because what you don't want, Kieran, is qualifying for the Champions League and then the next season to be similar to what it was last season, where we've got no chance of winning the Champions League with the squad we've got, and it ends up taking its toll on injuries, taking its toll on, players of some degree. That has an effect on the Premier League matches and other competitions. In a way, I feel glad that we've got this kind of season now compared to what it would have been if we won the Europa League. Because I don't think we would have been ready for the Champions League. It would have been a huge distraction this season for United with the squad they've got.
Sounds like what we need then is a competition that's just slightly below the Conference League. Now, I can't think of anybody, Tom, that would have made a competition that was one step lower than the Conference League. By the way, that's a reference to a previous episode that Tom and I did.
And I stand by that. But the Conference League, if you think of it, if United won it, it would be a place in the Europa League, which, okay, it's not the Champions League that you qualify for, but at least it's still something to boost the club's morale, and it would help them commercially, in my opinion. But you need to have players of depth in the squad that's going to help push United further towards finishing towards the top of the table. I don't know who United are looking for, potentially, for when the summer comes around, because if you're thinking about buying players for this in the summer, you've got to start scouting now, if you haven't already done so, and start looking out for who you can get. I mean, they tried to get Carlos Baleba, which realistically wasn't going to happen because we didn't have the funds to pay that much, considering that we paid so much for Sesko, Cunha and Mbeumo. Can they get Baleba? There's no question to my mind that Brighton are going to put a huge price tag to his name of excess of £100 million, or however much it's going to be. United really need to think what needs improving. And if you were to ask me right now what really needs improving, it's in the middle of the park, because there's a lack of quality options in there. Ugarte hasn't impressed me so much this season. Casemiro is running out of legs. Mainu, we don't know for certain whether he's going to be at Manchester United next season, because he's been trying to get game time to give himself the best chance of playing for England in the World Cup. United need, at the very minimum, 2 centre midfielders, maybe even 3 if they can help it. That's where the priority should be at. We've signed Sen Lamon as pretty much a replacement for Onana. We haven't seen what he can do yet, and I want to see what he can do in between the 6. Will he start against Brentford? Realistically, no, but I'd like him to start to give himself a chance. I would save Bayern for the games against Liverpool and Brighton, purely because he's been playing more this season than Onana has been, and Lamont.
I mean, I'll put it to you, Tom. Obviously, it's 5 Premier League games in, 7 points so far. That puts us, I believe, 11th place in the Premier League, so it's already an improvement. But what would you say, considering the results we've had games against Arsenal, City and Chelsea in those 5 games. What's your sort of feelings after the first 5, and what are your expectations for the next 33?
Well, it's got to be top half. We can say that. I think these next 2 games I've already mentioned, they're must-win games, I think. Brentford and Sunderland. If we come away with less than that, I wouldn't be at all happy with it. And then we've got to go to Liverpool thinking that, it could end up going one way or another. Having said that, Liverpool are a team that leaves it late. Because if you think about it, Kieran, United in the last year or so have not been good at scoring goals in the first half. Chelsea was obviously an exception to it, but United in general just haven't been very good at scoring goals in the first half of matches. Sesko still hasn't got off and running, I don't think, even though he played a huge role in getting Robert Sanchez sent off, which obviously helped United on their way. But he needs to get a goal at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will come. I think it will. I think he looks a lot more resilient. He's celebrating with his teammates, even though he's not the one on the goal sheet. So I think it will come. And I think now that he's starting games, that hopefully will just get more and more likely. I would love it. I think it will be a huge roar of relief But I hope it's not the roar of relief that we sort of had with Hoyland. God, I wish we had Haaland, but Hoyland. Scrub that. Yeah, when we had the roar of him when he got his first goal last season, and then it was just a big drought after that, or it was very inconsistent. And that has a lot to do with service, which is still a bit of an issue in this Man United squad. I still don't think Sesko's getting a good bit of service. However, he's getting himself involved in the play. I think he's linking up well with the likes of Cunha and with Mbeumo. I think it is only a matter of time before he gets a goal. It really is. So, yeah, we'll see what he can do. Well, Tom, that's sort of that portion of it done. It's 3 points against Chelsea. Didn't expect that, but it's a very welcome surprise, that's for sure. Lovely. And with that then, it's time for Tweet of the Week, which we have remembered it is a regular segment, and I definitely don't need poking by the social media team. Tom, lay it on us. What's your Tweet of the Week? What have you found?
It's time for a Simpsons one. Why not? So this one is from @EFL Simpsons, and the tweet says 10 men Chelsea lose to 10 men Man United at Old Trafford. And basically the first picture is a man who is under the Chelsea guys saying, usually we don't beat Man United in front of Chelsea fans on the right-hand side of the picture. And the very next picture at the bottom saying, and this season shall be no exception. And he shuts the door and all the Chelsea fans are just sort of heads down like that.
Simpsons and football. It's just a match made in heaven. It's always going to get a like from me, always a laugh from me. My tweet of the week comes from Cold Picks of Man United. It's @UTD Snaps. Just a picture of Mazraoui and De Ligt with the caption, "Thank you, Bayern Munich." Simple as. They've been phenomenal, those two, especially De Ligt. Mazraoui now back from injury, looking pretty good as well. And they've been two shining lights. They really have. But there you go, Tom. 3 points on the board with 2 must-win games coming up over the next couple of weeks. No pressure then, hey? No pressure for someone that's, top of our fantasy football league, which I'm totally not jealous about, by the way. Not fair.
It's worth mentioning as well, Kieran, the fact that Cunha and Mount are back in the side after short spells. So I would probably say it's going to help give Ruben Amorim some options for the Brentford game, especially now that Casemiro's is suspended. It might push Fernandes back into that centre of in the middle of the park, if you want to call it, alongside whoever it could be, whether it would be Mainu or Ugarte, whichever. But at least Cunha is back, and also Mount, which is going to add more options into that attacking line.
Absolutely. Tom, it's been a pleasure to have you on the episode tonight. And we'll see how Manchester United can do over the next coming weeks. Of course, we've got plenty of content for you coming up this week, so we'll see you for tomorrow's episode. It'll be a Wildcard Wednesday, so you really don't want to miss it. Of course, we can't bring you these episodes without our partners at Zencastr, because here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr came out the clear winner, with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that can help you remove those ums and ahs, or maybe sort of scrub any reference of Haaland I made in this episode. With that, it's super easy to make a star-second podcast that sounds great and is also delivered efficiently. So if that sounds like that's up your street, make sure you check out the link in the description and check out Zencastr. And we big thank you to them for being our partners here at the Global Sports Podcast Network. If you want to start a conversation with us on social media, we would love to hear from you. Who did you think was the man of the match from the Manchester United and Chelsea game? Let us know. It's at gspnmanunited. We are on Twitter and X, on Instagram, on Facebook, and on TikTok. So go and start a conversation with us. We'd love to hear from you. And also, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify and you want to watch our episodes, I'm glad to say you can. On YouTube, it's at GSPN Daily Man United Podcast. It's so long, so you have to remember it. Until the next episode, I've been Kieran. Tom's been alongside. We'll talk to you soon. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.